Good morning, Cage Nation. This is Kevin Jackwitz with the Cage Review, and I am bringing you another news report. Now, about a week ago, after the amazing failure of the Justice League movie, DCEU decided that they were going to shake things up, and I wanted to bring everybody up to speed on to what exactly is happening and what that means for us as fans and what that means for the DCEU as a whole. Now, the first thing I want to touch on is who's out and who's coming in. Zack Snyder is officially out. They are done with Zack Snyder in the whole DCEU. He's gone. There's a couple movies coming up where he's going to have credits in, but they're not making any more movies with Zack Snyder at the helm. So some people are going to like that, some people are going to hate that. It's a matter of style, I think, sometimes. I think Zack Snyder can make some very good movies, but I have to say, as a whole, me being a huge DC fan, I think that he has missed the mark several times, and so I don't think that this is a bad choice. I think that for whatever reason, maybe it, was the death of his kid, and, God forbid anybody ever have to go through with that. I couldn't imagine what the man was going through. But he's lost his touch. I really liked Batman, or not Batman v Superman, but Man of Steel. I know some people did not like it, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. I did not like BVS very much. It had some very cool parts because as a DC Comics fan, I got to see some things that they pulled right out of the pages of the comics, and so I really did like that, and I appreciate a lot of the things that he did put into the movie. But as a whole, Batman v Superman could have been a lot more than it was, and I think with the name Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice, it should have been. I think you spent 2 hours of build-up and not much, action in between. And for these kinds of movies, you need that. You need to grab people's attention. You need to pull them into the movie. And for a movie called Batman v Superman, you only have 10 minutes of actual Batman versus Superman, which I thought was ridiculous. And there were just so many problems with that movie. The pacing was terrible. Justice League, I don't completely blame on Snyder. I think Warner Brothers corporate got involved and made all the wrong choices. So I don't completely blame that on Snyder, but I do believe that Snyder out is a great thing. Another thing that has kind of come out of this is Ben Affleck, from the latest news, is only going to do one more movie, and that is going to be Flashpoint. We'll talk about that here in a minute. It really sucks for us as fans because Ben Affleck, I think, was a great Batman, and I think he really brought something to the table. He was the best part of Batman vs. Superman, but I kind of understand, why he would want to leave at this point. I mean, it's a failing franchise. So, at this point, if they're going to continue on with the DCEU and maybe look toward another Justice League down the road, it does look like they're going to need to find another Batman at some point. Maybe something happens in the next movie or two that changes Ben Affleck's mind, but DCEU really needs to get on track if that's going to happen. So, we have Zack Snyder out, we have Ben Affleck out, now we have Jon Burg and Geoff Johns out. Jon Burg is going Vertigo. He is completely out. He has nothing to do with these movies anymore. So, and it's not terrible for him because Vertigo is a pretty good movie company. As a matter of fact, they just made it. So, he's not going to be hurting there. Geoff Johns, he is going to be Chief Creative Officer, which, I mean, really is kind of an advisory role when it comes to the movies. Like, he can have some input, but overall he's not going to have any deciding factors there. So, as far as Geoff Johns, one of my favorite comics of all time is the Green Lantern Blackest Night series, and you know, Geoff Johns was really great at creating comics. I think that he lacks what it took to go from comics to movies. He's not a movie maker. He has no idea. He can create storylines, but at the end of the day, he is what he is. He's a great illustrator and a writer for comics. So, you know, I don't think that they're honestly missing much. They're getting rid of Geoff Johns. As much as I love the guy as a comic creator, I don't believe that he is a good fit for the DCEU movies. So, Brian Michael Bendis has been hired on. I don't know what he's doing yet, but they did just hire him. And the big picture here is really that the DCEU needs to find their Kevin Feige. They need someone who can come in, take charge, and really transform these movies, because they have just fallen apart. So I really hope they do that, and they are looking for that Kevin Feige type for the DCEU. Now, hopefully we'll be happy with who they chose, and that person can do a good job at turning things around. Another big development is that the DCEU is now being incorporated back into the Warner Brothers movie studios as a whole. They have been their own kind of isolated studio within Warner Brothers. And that is no longer the case because things are obviously just not working out. And I'm sure Warner Brothers is just like, what are you guys doing over here? So that change has happened. Yeah, DCEU is now actually going to be consolidated with Warner Brothers Movie Studios, and I think that's a good thing, because the more people you have involved in the movie, the better the outcome will be, you know. So that's the first major changes. Now, moving ahead with the DCEU, apparently Ben Affleck's last role as Batman, or possible last role as Batman, I should say, is in the Flashpoint movie. And there's a lot of things right with this, and there's a lot of things wrong with this. My initial first thought with Flashpoint is it's going to go over a lot of people's heads, because for the common fan, they're not going to have any idea what's going on. Flashpoint is kind of a complicated scenario where it deals with alternate timelines and alternate dimensions and shit like this, and I think some people are going to lose sight of what's happening, especially since the DCEU and especially The Flash has not really been built up yet. So another big change that I think, you know, this movie can completely alter the events for the DCEU. And I think that might be their tool to kind of reinvent the DCEU. And if that's the case, great, because they need to do it and they need to find a way to do it. So the Flashpoint does kind of give them the ability to start fresh, and they definitely need to do that. So, but again, you know, it could go very right, it could go very wrong. And considering this is Ben Affleck's last role, you know, there's also kind of the dichotomy of, okay, this is Ben Affleck's last role as Batman, but does anybody really care? Some people will, and some people won't. Some people won't like the fact that he has stepped down. Some people, you know, never really got into it in the first place. So, I mean, there's a lot of things working against it. So, the only other two confirmed movies right now at this moment are Wonder Woman 2, which we kind of expected that because of the success of the first one. So they are definitely greenlit for Wonder Woman 2. And Shazam. And this is another movie that I think going forward is a bad choice for the DCEU. Shazam is not what I think a lot of casual fans are going to gravitate towards. You know, this little kid that You know, he gets these magical powers from the Greek gods, and then boom, he turns into this, you know, super badass. I think it's a little caricature, and you know, is not going to be everybody's cup of tea. And another big problem with this is we don't have an official confirmation as Dwayne Johnson being cast as the role of Black Adam. And I think that if he is, that's a great step in the right direction, but I'm not so sure. And I think even Dwayne Johnson, seeing what's happening with Marvel, or sorry, DCEU movies, he's going to have second thoughts. I mean, this is a franchise that right now is crumbling. I think they could have gone a lot of different directions. I think they could have went with the next Batman, which they could have used Affleck for that role instead of doing the Flashpoint. And especially since they have Deathstroke, I think that would have been absolutely amazing to have the Batman with Deathstroke and Ben Affleck in it. I think that really had an opportunity there that they're missing at this point. So roles in the future and movies in the future are really in question right now. There, you know, is no confirmation for a Justice League 2. There's no confirmation for a Green Lantern Corps now, which I think a lot of fans were looking forward to, a Green Lantern movie that actually did the movie justice. As I said, you know, certain roles, Black Adam, Dwayne Johnson, that's a big question mark at the moment. So there's a lot of things with the DCEU that are in transition, and all I know is that they can't keep doing what they are doing because it's an empire that is falling right now. And I hate to see that because honestly, it's such a damn good comic. You know, it really bothers me that the corporate giants in Warner Brothers have rushed this in the name of getting the money out of it. You know, they see the success of Marvel Studios and, you know, okay, well, we can capitalize on the DC universe, and they're trying to skip so many steps and just push into these big, like, Justice League movies like the Avengers, and, you know, they're trying to reap the benefits without putting in the work, and it's just backfiring, and you can see it, and it's really disheartening for me. Because as a fan, I would love to see the DCEU do really good. I would love to see these quality movies come out. You know, it's funny because I would much rather have Disney buy out the DCEU and start building the whole franchise anew. Because quite frankly, that would be awesome anyway. Fuck, you could go with Avengers versus Justice League at that point. That would be amazing. So yeah, Disney, go buy DCEU, please. Do it some justice. Pun intended. And you know, I think that at the end of the day, they're doing the right things at Warner Brothers. They know they have to change things up. They have to get rid of some people. Things are obviously not working. So, at the end of the day, I do believe it's a good thing. I think that this is steps in the right direction, and hopefully they'll get the right people in to revamp the DCEU. So what do you guys think? What do you guys think about Snyder being out or Affleck being out? What do you guys think about the possibility of not having some of the movies we were promised? Let me know in the comments below. This has been Kevin Jacklitz with the Caged Review. Caged Nation, out.